The Pran Pratishtha of the Ram temple at Ayodhya is the culmination of a long ideological fight, which will see the hopes and aspirations of millions of devotees being fulfilled when Prime Minister Narendra Modi, RSS Chief Mohan Bhagwat and the priests actually perform the rituals on the 22nd day of January. This will also be arguably the biggest day in the life of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who has worked tirelessly as a Swayamsevak and through his journey really sought to be the embodiment of Hindutva and Sanatan Dharma. And therefore, what does this mean in the arc of India's civilizational journey? There is nobody better than Amish Tripathi who can give us the perspective on what this means for India as a people, as a nation. He, of course, is the author of the Ramchandra series, a reinterpretation of the Hindu epic Ramayana. He has written Immortal India, The Legend of Suhail. There are multiple books that try and give a contemporary edge to Indian mythology. Amish Tripathi, welcome, and it is terrific to have you with us on the News Track. Swagat.
Thank you. Thank you, Rahul.
Amish, I want you to start by painting a wide arc as you can about the significance of the 22nd of January and what you think this represents for India as a people, as a nation, when decades or centuries from now, people look back on the 22nd day of January 2024. What do you think it will stand for?
You know, Rahul, I think this can be looked at three levels. One is economic, which is kind of obvious, then national unity, and then the long-term civilizational arc. Economic, it's very obvious. Just the figures of Kashi, when Kashi Vishwanath Dham was expanded, the number of tourists and pilgrims who came there, it was twice or thrice the number that used to go to Goa nationally and just shot up within a year. That was Kashi. Ayodhya will probably be multiple times of that. And this will be a massive economic boost to that entire region. But that's the economic part. And if you realize a temple and a temple economy, it actually helps everyone. People across all castes, people across all religions. That's one aspect. The second aspect is national unity. There was this brilliant author called Diana Eck who said that India was not built on the power of its kings. It was built on the footsteps of its pilgrims. Essentially, pilgrims travel to different parts of the Indian subcontinent. And that's how national consciousness was built. What a temple like Ayodhya does, you see the temple itself, there are contributions from across India into the building of that temple and the celebrations that are happening. What you will see is people from across India coming as pilgrims, and Ayodhya itself will become a center for the building of national consciousness. That's what our ancient temples used to be. And sadly, when they were destroyed during the invasions, this is what actually impacted our national unity. That's the second aspect. The third aspect is at a civilizational level. This has almost never happened in human history, where a quote-unquote pagan idol-worshipping culture has recovered its worship place. And I'm sure you're aware of the Hagia Sophia. There was controversy recently when it was converted into a mosque, because many say that it was originally a church, and the Pope himself had made a statement at that time. But what people have forgotten, 1600 years ago, actually it was a temple to a pagan goddess. And then it was converted into a church and then later into a mosque. But the pagan idol worshippers are all dead in Turkey. There's no one to talk about it. India is the only pre-Bronze Age culture that is still alive. And the fact that this has happened through a court case, through a process of law, through debate and evidence gathering, where communities across are celebrating and because of the way it happened, I'm sure you must have read of one of the Muslim litigants, Irfan Saab. He himself wanted to attend and take darshan of Lord Ram's temple. And I think it happened, I think that reaction is because of the way this happened, through a court of law, through evidence gathering. So from a civilizational perspective, it is a very, very important moment as well. It's a second Diwali. Lord Ram is coming back.
Interesting, because it is not just for this year, but for time to come, going to be looked at as the second Diwali. So let me now ask you some of the questions that have been doing the rounds, and I want you to explain as you can about why things are being done the way that they are. Let's start with the 22nd of January. One is that this is a highly auspicious day, which is why it's been chosen. The opposition says this is 4 days before Republic Day. You wanted to give some gap between the consecration of the Ram Temple and Republic Day. You wanted to ensure this happens before the Election Commission announced the date of polls, and therefore, while the temple isn't even fully complete, just the first floor is ready, you're doing this Pran Pratishtha because this is something the government wanted should be completed before the 2024 elections. How do you look at the fact that only one floor is ready? Does that matter, not matter in your view? And the date that's been picked, because now of course this can be read in different ways. I'm reading some of the Shankaracharyas and the others who've spoken are saying, as per the Skanda Purana, bad omens enter an idol, destroy the area if such rituals are not done properly, and they're also questioning the date that's been picked. So how do you look at this, Amish?
Rahul, first of all, obviously, I wouldn't like to comment on the politicians. On Shankaracharyas, I myself am a Shaivite. I have, as all Shaivites, I have deep respect for our Shankaracharyas. And from what I know, I think two of the Shankaracharyas have supported, have said that it is, that they're willing to attend or support it, and two are not. And that is, of course, their point of view. But let me tell you from my understanding, my grandfather was a Pandit, actually, in Kashi. And from my understanding of how the process happens in a temple building, and my grandfather actually used to do Pran Pratishtha pujas as well. He was a Pandit at Vishwanathji and a teacher at BHU. Now, remember in ancient times, a temple would take decades and sometimes even over a century, like the Kailash Mahadev temple. So how it used to happen is there were 3 steps. One, there would be a puja done when the Garbha Griha was being marked out, right? That is one, and remember the temple would be built around. That's the first step that happens. The second step, and it gets built out from there. The second step, the second major puja that happens is when the Vigraha is placed and the Pran Pratishtha is done. That is only done when the Garbha Griha is ready. The rest of the temple may not be ready, because remember in ancient times it could take many decades. So the Pran Pratishtha is done when the Garbha Griha is ready. This is what I learned from my grandfather, who was a Pandit. And the third step, when the entire temple is complete, then the Purna Kalasha is placed on the top. When the spire, everything is complete, when the Shikhara is complete, you place the Purna Kalasha on the top. This is my understanding. So it's not out of the ordinary that a Pran Pratishtha can take place when the entire temple complex is not ready, as long as the Garbha Griha is ready. This is my understanding of our traditions, and I say this complete and total respect towards our Shankaracharyas. I'm a Shaivite, so for us, the Shankaracharyas represent Adi Shankaracharya ji. But I believe that even among them, I think 2 have said that it's okay and 2 have said that it's not.
Okay, let's now come to who performs the puja and who's present at the time of the puja. Now we're seeing 2 points of view. We know, of course, the Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be present during the puja. There are others who say, well, in what capacity? In millennia gone by, the kings at that time used to be present when such a Pran Pratishtha was being performed at the temple. They're saying, is Prime Minister Modi thinking of himself as a modern day king? In what capacity is he there? Is it right or wrong, and how do you look at the questions that are being asked about who will be present at that time? Because Mohan Bhagwat ji, the RSS chief, is likely to be present. The governor is likely to be present. We're also seeing the prospects of Yogi Adityanath, the Uttar Pradesh chief minister, being present. So those are the people apart from the 2 priests who are likely to be present when the puja is being performed during the Pran Pratishtha. How do you respond to those who say that why is the Prime Minister there, should he be there?
I'm not aware of what are the rituals that will take place during the Pran Pratishtha. And yes, you're right, in ancient times it could be a Pandit, it could be a local very important individual, it could be the king, it could be various people who could do the main Pran Pratishtha puja. But in modern times, such great temples haven't been rebuilt. I think the only example is perhaps of Somnath ji, which was done almost immediately after independence. And if memory serves me right, I think President Rajendra Prasad ji had done the Pran Pratishtha at that time. So this, at least in modern India, this did happen, that the quote-unquote political leaders, because Rajendra Prasad ji was the president, did do this. But having said that, I don't know what are the actual rituals that are going to happen at the Ram Janmabhoomi ji itself on 22nd Jan. So may not be correct for me to comment on that.
Okay, now let's look at the question of what this means for Ayodhya itself, because as you well know, there are so many different interpretations of the Ramayana, and one of the concerns that's being raised is that one idea of Bhagwan Ram and one form of worship is being sought to be imposed or be made the norm, whereas religion is actually a very private, personal matter, and everyone should be allowed to practice their religion or not in the manner in which they wish to. However, if you make such a big song and dance around the Pran Pratishtha, you're making religion a communal affair, whereas actually it's a private, personal matter.
Rahul, this thing that religion is a private, personal matter is actually a Western paradigm, and it emerged from the rationalist movement when they were fighting the church in the West. The reality of India is religion is both a personal matter and a communal matter. At mosques and churches, people do gather communally in the positive sense. I'm not using the communal negative connotation that's taken board in India today, but they do gather and celebrate their religion together. In the Hindu way, the festivals are very important. So festivals are essentially a communal gathering. So this thing that that religion is a private matter is more like a Western paradigm. So someone to say that in India is they're not really living in India then. And that's one aspect. Secondly, even the government itself has actually interfered in religion for the last 75 years. Personal laws are in India not secular and equal. There are differences on how religions are treated by the state. In some cases, it treats like Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains have tax benefits which Muslims and Christians don't. Or Hindu temples are taken over by the government, and churches, mosques, gurudwaras cannot be touched. So this thing that in India religion is a personal matter, the facts don't really bear that out. In terms of the celebration at the Ram Janmabhoomi Ji itself, look, the way I see it, if anyone tries to enforce one particular way of worshipping Lord Ram, I think that goes against the spirit of Hinduism. And we all have a way to worship Lord Ram at our homes, at our private puja rooms, and there are different temples as well. Remember, for example, at the temple at Orsha, Lord Ram is worshipped as a king, right? In the temple at Ram Janmabhoomi Ji, he will be worshipped as a child, as Ram Lalla. Even the Vigraha, the Murti, will be of him as, if I'm not mistaken, it should be. It will be of him as a child, which is what it should be in a temple such as this. So there are different ways of worshipping Lord Ram, no doubt.
Okay, now you mentioned that this is likely to be a second Diwali. We're seeing this year for certain. This will be celebrated as Deepavali. Does it then mean that for time to come, we'll have two Diwalis, one sometime in October, November, and the other on the 22nd of January?
That only Lord Ram knows, yeah. But look, we have an opportunity, to celebrate twice. And look, we Indians love celebrations. We need any excuse to celebrate. And if we can celebrate the return of Lord Ram, in once again on Jan 22nd, I'm working on a documentary as well. It'll come out, with Lord Ram's blessings very soon. Perhaps by the end of this month, early next month. The story of the Ram Janmabhoomi temple itself. And one of the things that struck us when we were making this documentary, and we interviewed Hindus of all castes, Muslims, people across, and people from the quote-unquote is that Lord Ram, was lost to the citizens of Ayodhya and India when he went on a vanvas, when he was forced to go on a vanvas for 40 years. And when he came back, that was a celebration of the first Diwali. And now we had lost him for nearly 500 years when the temple was destroyed, and now he's back. Wonderful to celebrate.
There were those who thought that the Ram temple issue had run out of juice, that this had peaked at climax and this would just be formality, just going through the rituals and the motions, as it were. However, in the build-up to the 22nd of January, we've already seen a massive surge in public interest around things like Ram Bhajans, for example. A lot of young singers, some of them had previously been on Coke Studio, popular Bollywood playback singers, they're all now singing Ram Bhajans, they're flying off on Spotify, Ghana, Apple Music, everywhere. It's the hottest selling, hottest flying genre of music. Now, given that there are so many young people who weren't necessarily as aware previously as they are now trying to be about Sanatan, about different facets of religion, about the story of Ram and Ayodhya, do you see this lead to a massive social awakening as well? Or do you think the television channels and the government are just hyping this more than is justified or necessary?
Look, you were just speaking about celebrating and worshipping Lord Ram in different ways. One is, of course, the traditional way of worshipping. But the point you've raised right now actually just it just raises the way that we celebrate our gods in different ways. Music itself is a wonderful way to celebrate. Dance is a wonderful way to celebrate. Reading is a wonderful way to celebrate. Anything which reminds us of our gods and goddesses. And that we learn from them and lead a better life is a way to celebrate them, is a way to worship them. And no, I don't think the television channels are hyping it up. One can sense it, across India. One sensed it during the documentary that we were making. We've just recorded and shot a song which we'll release soon, and we had kids jumping and dancing while we were making the video of the song. The mood is different. And I say this, the only thing that I think one should hold very strongly is that when this does revive, we must remember that Lord Ram never differentiated, between his followers or those who worshipped him or even those who didn't. And those of us who do worship him, who follow him, must follow that role model as well. This should, it was of course a Hindu temple, but it should not be only a Hindu celebration. All 1.4 billion of us, we must carry everyone along. And I think that to me would represent Lord Ram's way much more deeply. All 1.4 billion of us are his people. And when we celebrate, when we gather, we must carry everyone along.
Oh,
that
absolutely.
would be the greatest way to worship Lord Ram.
I think the Prime Minister alluded this to this as well when he said, this is about Astha and Dharma, this is not about aggressions. Don't be aggressive against the others, especially those who don't believe or aren't quite as passionate, as charged up as some of the believers. Amish Tripathi, always a pleasure having you and listening to your thoughts and insights. Thank you for joining us and see you soon. Thank you.